I've got a quote in here about marketing and content marketing in particular. All the marketing that's left by Seth. Now, his work is amazing. I think some of the things that he says are very accurate. I disagree. I think there's a lot more marketing left than just content marketing. But we know that things are changing. The world is changing, marketing's changing. Content is playing a much bigger role in the way that we communicate with our customers and our prospects. I'm going to keep mine simple, keeping it very much so in terms of infographics. Digital strategy, in the first line in digital strategy, and this is coming from some Smart Insights groups. Content marketing, by far, is leading one of the biggest trends in 2015. And digital strategy is something that is being implemented across many organizations. Data, big data, is number two. So content and big data are two of the biggest trends, and I think that when we focus on how we engage with our customers, Smart Insights, customer insights are driving a lot of the work that we do around the development of content. In terms of content marketing, the tactics, social media is quite high. But also looking at effectiveness, I think the interesting point is in-person events has a much higher effectiveness rating than just social media. So it's not just about digital. And somebody who lives in the world of digital, that's hard for me to say. But it isn't about just digital. It's about all customer touch points. How do we look at distribution? How do we look at getting the information, right place, right time, right message? It is using data. It's using smart information to make the right decisions. State of content marketing. You know, a couple of things that was interesting. What are people still finding a challenge on? It's how do you measure this? How do you measure effectiveness of the content marketing that you're doing? We use everything from Omniture Analytics down to Moz and anything else that we can use to measure effectiveness of the work that we do. People like Ruth Harper in the content strategy team have really worked hard to help to define what we need to do. How do we need to measure? How do we define KPIs to begin with? What do we look at in terms of return on investment? All of these are areas that it's not just us who are finding it. This is, by the way, this is very US-centric. I couldn't find a lot of research that's been done from Europe, so I had to take it from North America. But what we are looking at is producing engaging content. 50% of what, one of the things that people are really looking at is how do I develop engaging content? Content that's infographic-based, video-based, long copy, social, email, all the different types of content that people are developing, and then trying to get into the hands of their clients, their prospects, anyone else who's interested in helping build that brand. Key goals, developing relationships and building loyalty. There's a change. It's not so much around driving sales. It's changing into developing a much more loyal and a much more relationship-based engagement with customers. That's one of the things we found in terms of looking at where the change is and the focus is, especially around social content. It is not around just pushing sales. It's about building the relationship. Some techniques. I won't go through these each, but this is my heart from customer experience. Start with your audience. Create a persona. Understand who these people are. Understand what their needs are. Understand what their requirements are from you as a brand and from them as a person. And how do you help them professionally? How do you help them build a relationship internally with their own bosses? All of these are areas that people are interested in, especially in the B2B space. Customer journey mapping. I've worked with some people from our DARE side, like Mark Bell, who are brilliant at understanding what these journeys are and what the touch points are as they go through those journeys. What do we need to say? How do we need to put the information in front of them? That's all, again, driven by data. It's driven by the analytics that sit behind many of the automated marketing platforms, Adobe Cloud, any of those, Eloqua. There's a lot of different systems, and they can all be used very effectively in order to engage with customers. Oh, before we go on to that one, before we go on this, looking at some trends, content being developed by a manufacturer is not new. In the 50s, Folgers, the coffee brand, produced lots of daytime television in order to sell their coffee. Disney has developed whole channels in order to sell their products and their theme parks. This is not something new, but it's other brands now. People in different spaces, Capital One, and for Alex, sorry, excuse me for using Capital One, but they are investing. They are building and acquiring user experience agencies. Bigger companies like Starbucks are partnering with likes of Oliver to produce content in-house. So it's real-time content development. We work with the post office in developing content. We have a team in-house in the post office. And sitting right next to the marketers and the social people and the product owners give us a much better and stronger position developing relevant content really quickly, turning it around, getting it online, getting it in a travel blog. There's a really lot of information that goes through. Excuse me. I am starting to lose my voice, and that's kind of a rarity for me. So Haley, let's go on. A couple of things, investment activities and the checklist. Start with strategy. Content is not something that's just done on the fly. You really need to start with a good, strong content strategy. What do you need to do? How does it need to work with all your different products? Starting with the strategy, using strong data, two very powerful tools in terms of content marketing and content development. Creation and distribution, two of the most important things. How do you create strong content? But more importantly, how do you distribute it? This is where a lot of people fail. You can develop and develop and develop, but if you don't have a good strategy on how to get the information to the right people, right place, right time, it's going to fail. So again, just a couple of quick areas around recommendations, what we must get right in terms of strategy and distribution and planning. So the planning teams are very important to helping you get this right. So that's it for me. I'm going to hand it over to Carina. Thank you very much. I did keep it short and succinct. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Carina Jeppesen. I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Oliver, and I'd like to introduce our latest report, Brands as Publishers. In this report, we discuss the latest trend that's happening, brands hiring editorial teams. So the way we interact with brands is changing. Digital has brought about a change in the consumer journey, which often starts with a question now. It's the brands that seek to answer this question that are the brands that are often found first. These are the brands that have the opportunity to create a long-term relationship with customers. So content creation is growing, and consumers are responding to good content. In a group of consumers that like your content, your branded content, 41% will actively seek more content from you, while 37% might purchase your products and services. Next slide. Brands are increasingly being seen as sources of knowledge and sources of entertainment. Across the world, we're seeing that people are using content to entertain their friends, they're sharing it to express their opinion, and they're sharing it to express excitement about life events. And the content craze is also spreading to B2B. Even a slight increase in blogging can increase your leads. But it's the brands that really take it to the next level, the brands who hire editorial teams or create dedicated teams and publish from dedicated content hubs, that are the brands that really are succeeding. These are the brands who hire editors, writers, video producers, and creatives to really push their content creation to the next level. They have the opportunity to impact perceptions of their brand, to impact loyalty. However, brands as publishers is not new. We can go all the way back to 1900, where André and Edouard Michelin started the Michelin tire company. In 1900, they started publishing the Michelin Guide. And now, the Michelin Guide is a trusted source of travel reviews. But it doesn't need to take a century to create an esteemed publishing brand. Jamie Oliver, did it in just 2 years. I'm sure that we all know FoodTube by now. Only 2 years ago, FoodTube only had about 200,000 subscribers to the channel. Today, it has 1.7 million subscribers. Jamie and team have now launched DrinksTube in a 3-year partnership with Bacardi. And DrinksTube has already become, it only launched in April 2014, but it's already become the biggest cocktail channel on YouTube. So obviously, he's very happy. I'd like to invite you to pick up your own copy on the way out. Read more about why brands are hiring editorial teams, what brands are doing it well, and the case for your brand to become a publisher. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to turn this over to Pete Markey from the Post Office.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be at Oliver and great to talk about Post Office. And it's also really exciting to be with some familiar faces as well, lots of familiar faces. So Post Office is a great brand to work on. I've been in the business about 18 months, and I'm going to share a bit about our journey and a bit about how we work with Oliver. And what's great is it's, for me, in the last 18 months, we've been on a really exciting journey of transformation. Oliver have played a really important part of that. I'm also really excited to have Dare here as well, who have been instrumental in helping us get along this journey as well. So it's great to share a bit more about where we've been and great to do that among so many familiar faces. So should I have a kind of a special routine to tell you how to go to the next slide? So we'll start with what's your perception of the Post Office. We'll flick to the next slide. And I think there are a number of people, when we talk about the Post Office, may still have this at the back of their mind. You'll have a slightly outdated, older view, queue coming around the corner, perhaps a slightly less than friendly environment on the inside. That's a traditional perception of the business. You get the next slide. So how big a job do we really have in changing those perceptions? So actually, the business is changing, and we still have around 17 to 18 million people come through our branches every single day of the week. We have around 11,000 branches, and 99.7% of the population are within 3 miles of a branch. So we have huge scale and a huge reach, and a really important part and role still to play within people's lives in the UK. We also have 45 million online visits a year, 3 million passport renewals, and importantly, 132 products that we could sell, which is actually quite huge, and we're the second most trusted brand in the UK. So within that context, Post Office still has a really important role within the UK, an important role to play in people's lives, and importantly, a role that content has to play in as well. You can see here just a selection of some of the customer touch points we go through, from things that are customer facing to things with colleagues, from point of sale to advertising to our own digital channels to the branch themselves. We have huge outlets where we're able to communicate and put content out, whether digital or broader. So it's a huge opportunity, but also a huge challenge as well. So let me talk about the transformation that we're going under as I come on to talk about content. We flick to the next slide. So we are transforming our branches, and the example I put here is a branch that launched in May. So we have a concept branch at Kennington Park. So if you have a board in London and you fancy a day out, hop on the tube, okay? Go to Kennington and visit Kennington Park. We've just launched an app where you can actually book your place in the queue before you arrive at Kennington Park as well. So this is a digital concept lab. It is live, and in essence, we're testing the customer experience in the real environment. So far better use of digital screens. We've made the counters far more accessible. The bit you can't see in the photo is some self-service around the corner. We've got a clearer travel place here for buying currency. And this room here is for financial services. If you want to book an appointment with a mortgage or financial services specialist, you can do that, and you can come into the branch and do that as well. The results of this have been absolutely fantastic. Double-digit improvement in customer satisfaction and in revenue and in growth. And it's a model we're now rolling out to 3 more branches. Actually, it's now beginning of November, so those went live at the end of last week. So we have 4 concept branches now. This is how fast this is moving. So we are transforming those branches. We've also transformed 4,000 more in a new and modern format as well over the last 3 years. So the network, it's feeling very different from the traditional image that you saw on the first slide. Now, importantly, everything we're doing is through the lens of the brand. So what we're not doing is just doing a little bit here and a little bit there and a bit of tinkering over here. It's done through the lens of what does our brand stand for and what's this about. This is a model that I've stolen from my friends at Interbrand. I'm not charging you for the privilege, but it's a model that I've worn out in most businesses I've worked in. It's very simple. What it says is if you understand what your brand's about, then you can flow that into 4 key areas within your business. So where a lot of brands fail is they stop here and say it's all about communication storytelling. It's all about having a really great campaign. If we get that bit right, job's a good one. But importantly, unless you get these other 3 boxes working as well, it's a very hollow promise to your customers and never fully realizes what your brand or business ambition is about. So products and services, do the products and services you sell and provide really bring your brand to life? People and culture, when people ring your call center, when they talk to the people in your stores or branches, do they demonstrate what your brand's about as well? And environment and channels, when people access your website or your content, or importantly, visit your in-store presence, how do they feel about your brand? Because these are real moments of truth. So, I could see your amazing TV ad, I could read your great content, but when I touch and experience your brand with the sniff test, what's it really like? Because as we know, people are only a tweet away from telling you what they really think about your brand if you're not delivering it through those moments of truth. So for us, the post office is all about helping you get life's important things done. That's what the business is about. People come into the post office, funnily if they don't come in to browse. In the last 6 months, I've picked up the P&L for retail and lottery. So I'm now the king of bubble wrap and packaging and padded envelopes, which I live and breathe and love, and greetings cards too. See me afterwards if you want any. I've got a special rate in my bag. So, but people don't come in thinking, you know what, I really want to go and have a look at the bubble wrap today. It doesn't work that way. They come in with a task in mind. They have a list of things to do. I want to post a parcel, sort my passport out, buy currency. And they come in with that task to do. So in all of our communication and everything we do as a brand, we need to remember that task orientation that customers have when they come in. So Post Office helps you with life's important things. Also gives us an anchor point for all of our content as well. If we're clear about this, therefore we know what we're writing about and we know the role that we can play within customers' lives. What we've also done from our brand purpose, our customer promise, is also build out some pillars for producing great content, which I've listed here. And this came out of all the work that we did around the brand about a year ago. So purposeful. So all our content has to be purposeful to create a sense of satisfaction. We want our customers to feel that we've really helped them get life's important things done. Uplifting, positively uplifting. We want to leave a smile on your face, to make you like the brand. It may sound simple, but it's a really important thing that we deliver, and positively surprising. We want people to take a second look at our brand. I didn't realise Post Office did that, or talked that way, or communicate in that way, or did that. One of our challenges as a brand is that we're known for a number of core things. We're known for postage, we're known for currency, but you'll know us less for financial services. So we have 3 million financial services customers, one of the fastest growing new mortgage and credit card businesses, but you probably don't know that. So what our content has to do is remind you of our heritage, but importantly build from there to take you forwards in terms of what the brand now offers and what the brand now does, particularly as those areas that we're growing in. So we've launched a new set of content guidelines that we're now starting to use in the business. The Oliver team are working on that with us, which is very much around how do we keep a consistent tone of voice in everything we do. So we've got the coordinates there, we're clear on the brand. How do we consistently keep telling people what the Post Office does in a very consistent way? And I'll give some demonstrations of that in a moment. So how do we put the guidelines into action? Let's give you some real examples on the ground. So we've recently launched our new website. If you haven't seen it yet, once you've had that visit to Kennington Park on your day out, come home and visit our website. In fact, do it tonight, it's worth doing. And what we've done is we've grouped it into how customers see our product range, not how we see it internally. So we've not gone as, well, okay, how does it make sense to us? Now, how does it make sense to customers? So we've done it, we've got a travel section, we've got a motoring section, we've got sections that make sense and work for our customers as opposed to working to us. And we've seen huge improvements in website performance since this went live about 6 weeks ago. We've also done a lot more to highlight products and services and what we do, things that are particularly less known about the brand. For example, we now do pay-as-you-go mobile, which probably most people in the room don't know that we do. So the website, in our redesign and how we reposition content on the site, is far better at explaining what we do and why we do it. And again, this is all work that the Oliver team have done. So again, rather than play in areas of content where people go, why are you talking about that? We've built out of areas that we're known for today. So we do currency, we do travel insurance, you can sort your passport renewal out with the post office. So why would we not talk more broadly about holidays? And we don't clearly sell holidays, but why would we not talk more broadly about your travel? So motoring, not forgetting your toothbrush, what it's like flying with children, travel apps, speaking the language, saving money on holiday. We've got permission to play in those areas and provide really rich content to our customers that come out of things that we're known for today. Just a couple of examples of tools we're now using in social as well. So the other important side of what we're doing is getting far better at listening. So it's not just clearly one-way communication. We want to understand what customers are saying back. So using Lithium and Crimson Hexagon, hopefully most people in the room know what those tools are, so I won't dwell on those, but just to show we're listening. And here's just some examples of how in the social space, so we talked about a moment ago using content online, but in the social space, how we're starting to really engage with a different tone of voice for our customers. So a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but someone started out with a tweet about they'd like to get some Blackpool pounds. Clearly there aren't Blackpool pounds. So we had a whole dialogue with this customer about how we're trying to get Blackpool. Just fun, it's engaging, comes across in our brand tone of voice, a helpful way, but just gives us a different point of contact with customers and a different way of communicating as well. We've also used Vine a lot on Twitter. So again, how do we bring in really rich content that engages with customers? Well, funnily enough, at this time of year, people do want to know what the last posting dates are. So produce little videos where you've got little maps and we can start to show the last posting dates. I've had great engagement there. And as a bloke who cannot wrap presents to save my life, and I'm sure many men in the room will relate to that, it's great when you've got handy tips on how to wrap even the most awkward presents. And again, we create a huge engagement because we've got permission to play in that space. And again, things like the anniversary of the First World War and vehicle tax changes, you know, we can engage in content that's relevant to customers where we can play as well. You know, a new range of stamps launches, we're able to be involved in that space as well. So one of the big things for us at the moment is Star Wars stamps, and maybe some Star Wars fans in the room. That's created huge engagement for us online. You can now also have a stamp of you connected to a Star Wars stamp. So if anyone's interested, see me afterwards. It's a perfect Christmas present. You dressed as Princess Leia next to a stamp of Princess Leia. If you want that, we can do that for you, okay? So again, great content. You've got great product to talk about. Why not promote that as well? So. And also the nation's love of dogs. We have a dog called Doobie that occasionally pops up in some of our advertising. Again, we all know people love dogs. You can do a lot with dogs and pets and content, and that's created huge engagement for us as well. We had something over the summer where you could, everyone that bought currency, we gave them a cardboard cutout of Doobie, and they took Doobie on holiday, and we had thousands of people literally on holiday with cardboard dogs. It happens, but it created great content. It shows you can take the physical into the digital world as well. So again, it's finding areas of content with our coordinates that really connect and work with our customers and gives us permission to be involved in those areas a lot more. And this is again, back to the Star Wars connection. So someone here, again, where we can in the right way talk about a bit of service feedback. Guy talks about there's a guy behind me in the post office breathing down my neck like Darth Vader. May the parcel force be with you. So again, we can in quite a playful way join the conversation and get involved where relevant and where there's real meaning behind it. So in summary, we are on a journey. We've got a much clearer sense of what the brand's about now. We've got coordinates for our rich, engaging content that helps to drive positive perceptions of the brand. And what's great is being involved with agencies like Dare, like Oliver. It's great to partner with agencies that help go on the journey with you and help you further improve and push your brand further. I think for me, the big thing around an opportunity to do more, as a business, we're always restless and always hungry for more. And the important thing is we need to keep delivering this consistently for our customers every single day, day in, day out. And we're about to enter the most exciting and the most challenging time of the year, which is Christmas for us. Over 30% of our business comes through the door at Christmas. So the important thing here, if you remember the 4-box model, for us is consistently ticking all 4 of those boxes in everything we do. So we're clear on the brand, you need great content, but we need to make sure we deliver that through the service we provide, the products and services we provide, and the very environment that you occupy as you visit the post office as well. So thank you for listening, and great to be here, so thank you.
Question time. We've got We can take a couple of questions. Is there anyone who would like to ask Pete a couple of questions or one question? Anything? Any hands? Okay, we've got one question.
Well, you mentioned obviously people going to the post office for a specific reason. Obviously, you want people to spend a lot more time on the website. What do you do in the new concept stores to convince people to go and have a look around to make it quite a seamless digital to in-person sort of interaction?
It's a great question. I hate to use the words omnichannel, but that's sort of hinted at in the question. So I think for us, it's creating a way to interact with the brand before you get into the branch. Then when you get there, it's more seamless, more effortless when you get there. So the best example I'll give is on foreign currency, where you can now buy your currency online and you can pick it up in a branch of your choice at a time slot of your choosing. So in effect, you've jumped the queue by saying, look, I want 500 euros. I want to pick it up at 2:35 tomorrow at the Moorgate branch. You can now do that, or you can have it delivered to your home or workplace. So I think for us, creating a mechanism where you could do more before you get there. And the ultimate expression of that would be online postage, for example, which is something that a number of other, if you look at the States, for example, that's being done actively in America at the moment. So I think you'll see a lot more, so I know you'll see a lot more from us coming through that creates those links between the digital and the physical experience a lot more.
Pete, you've also launched the governmental initiative called Verify, which is the digital identity program. So the post office was one of only a few organizations in the UK that's offering a service where you can now renew everything online using a digital identity. And it was one of the initiatives that we launched earlier this year. It's been hugely successful. So it's, again, another way of bringing together how to make life easier for the post office customers.
How easy was it to sell this into the business as opposed to kind of more traditional response-driven marketing, and how have you been able to show ROI?
Very good question. I'd be lying if I said this has been an easy journey. It feels easy, obviously, when you present it, it feels like an easy, effortless journey. It's not been that difficult. I think getting to the point where we were clear on the brand purpose, and the DARE team will remember this well. I think that's one of the harder parts, getting the business to agree and go, well, that's it, we're going to go for that. From that point onwards, everything else, I mean, it's not been an easy ride, but when you've got momentum and you can start to see things work, then it creates, I guess, positive momentum. It creates momentum behind you. So what we started with was some early wins. So we launched with a campaign called We're Changing that the DARE team worked on. It was all about longer hours and Sunday. That was a big success. That created momentum for us into Christmas and beyond. So I think when you can start to build success in your content, and then things like the concept branch, you get one under your belt, you can prove it's working. It just starts to create a real movement behind where you're going. And I think with the Oliver team, what we've proved is, from a simple level, our SEO rankings improved. We're now #1 on travel insurance and travel money through natural search. So again, you start to build these successes, it builds the business's confidence to A, give you more money, and B, to give you more focus and time behind what you're doing. So ROI results are really important, but start and get some quick wins under your belt. Don't go, and we didn't go straight from this to go, let's spend a load of money on a concept branch. We went for, right, we're going to start here, achieve this and this, then go to here. So it's all about having a plan. All right.
Well, thank you very much, Pete.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. Now I'm going to cue this up for Alex Naylor with Barclaycard.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to say my notes about the presentation. When we get there, thank you. So I was reflecting on the title of this presentation last night. I have a slightly uneasy relationship with the marketing press. I don't know if there's any of our esteemed colleagues here today. It's a bit like a much less important, less successful but sleazier version of House of Cards. I think basically I get all my media training wrong. So I say things like, it's easy to get integration wrong, and get quoted as, I find it easy to get integration wrong. So the key word in this slide is the not, and I want to talk about a bit about how not to become digital landfill. I think it's a really good time for this discussion that we're having today. It seems like pretty much everyone now wants to be a brand publisher. And the reasons for that are very well rehearsed. We've heard some great articulations here today. Media proliferation, ad literacy, time poverty, people's ability to filter out advertising. So it makes a lot of sense for brands to take publishing first strategies and to think about that as a way of cutting through and engaging. My perspective would be that in the rush to publish over the last couple of years, the vast majority of content has ended up in the digital landfill. And I think when we reflect on it, the reasons for that are quite simple. And all I wanted to do today was talk a bit about what goes wrong and how we can get it right, and the journey we're on at Barclaycard. So this is probably a not untypical and is very real illustration of the kind of impact of a piece of content being launched. So it goes out, gets launched from the nest with great enthusiasm, spends a little bit of time probably with people in the client's organisation and in the marketing world looking at it, and then dies a death. I picked up our B2B marketing a year ago. I've spent most of the last year actually removing helpful advice from small businesses from the website, because it was completely generic content that nobody ever actually looked at. And I think where you get to is, just because marketers have invented a new model around publishing, it doesn't make it any easier to be successful, and content fails just as advertising fails. I started working in the 90s. At that stage, everyone was very excited about CRM. Then the big stat came out about 80% of CRM implementations fail. And through the last 15 years, we see brand stretch and automation and content and all the same things happen. In fact, I think I got one last night where I was thinking about this, more automated emails about how your content is ineffective than anything else at the moment, which is a little bit kind of populates itself. So you think like, okay, so why is that happening? And I think that there's three big reasons. And the first one is pretty simple, that often people's publishing strategies aren't aligned with their marketing strategy, or more fundamentally, and Pete talked about this a bit, their content isn't a reflection of their brand purpose. And the upshot is it becomes very generic, or it's being done because I feel like it's the right thing to do. There's a little bit of film in the unlikely event that it works that illustrates that. You've got sound.
We think first of vague words that are synonyms for progress and pair them with footage of a high-speed train. Science is doing lots of stuff that may or may not have anything to do with us. See how this guy in a lab coat holds up a beaker? That means we do research. Here's a picture of DNA. There are a shitload of people in the world, especially in India. See how we're part of the global economy? Look at those farmers in China. But we also do business in the USA, or want you to think we do. Check out this wind energy thing in Indiana, and this blue-collar guy with dirt on his face.
Okay, so you probably get the, it's worth watching with the sound up. And actually, on reflecting, I was wondering whether it's less about not being aligned with brand purpose, or that most brand purposes are so generic that you all end up in the same place anyway. I think there's this kind of macro and micro point. I mean, the macro point is content needs to be a reflection of purpose. The micro point is you really need to plan carefully what its role is in customer journey and how you're going to measure and put metrics around it. And I appreciate all that sounds pretty basic, but my perception would be too often the content tail is wagging the dog, and this is why it ends up as landfill. If we already have, that's intuitive. If we look at this slide, I think the second big thing then is the fact that people constantly overestimate a consumer's desire to have a relationship with a brand. This is some stats from an annual social media report showing the types of information that people want from brands. But the big thing to take out is that on every single measure, except one which I'll come back to, there's a decline in people's interest over the last 4 years. So you're increasingly left with nothing really that they want except financial discounts. And this emerging none of the above trend, saying 35% of people don't want any relationship at all. I think the thing we all kind of know but need to keep front of mind is that people don't really care about our message. And if we're trying to move away from interruption tactics, then we have to start thinking about what people do actually care about. And we need to think about how we live in their world and how we live in their culture. And I think ultimately success comes from being able to add to that culture, and that's how you kind of pop and stand out. The third big thing is another misconception, which is this idea that things can go viral without actually feeding into a pre-existing community. So we're now living in an age where there is basically no organic reach through social media channels, and you need to plan very, very carefully how you're going to distribute content. Less than 0.1% goes viral, and so we need to remember that publishing is part content but part distribution. We were talking about this earlier. And unless you get the distribution right, then you're the tree falling in the woods and all the issues around that. So to me, it feels like there's clear reasons why things go wrong, but then let's stop sort of skiing into the tree and start thinking about, based on that, how can things go right? So how can we build on purpose? What are examples of where people have really thought about cultural contribution and where they've got distribution right? We'll just flick through a few quickly. Adobe, dear Adobe. I actually love Adobe. I never thought I would hear myself say that a couple of years ago. But I think they do things really well. I love the baby click collect ad where they, the TV ad where it ends up relaunching the Encyclopedia Britannica. I think they have a really clear sense of purpose about helping people make better decisions, and that integrates all their activity and flows into their content. This is an example of the CMO.com portal. It's a great example of a reflection of building out on that purpose and thinking for this community, how can we add content and value? So they were thinking about launching their cloud software. They wanted to appeal to senior marketing decision makers and wanted to build trust and credibility over their ability to help make informed decisions. So the conclusion they came to was, let's build out this content platform. It directly speaks to people who self-identify as CMOs. Yes, it's very Adobe branded and Adobe product centric, but it has great content, including a piece from Morris Dean's co-speaker. So it must be good. It's a great media platform that provides utility, and they've thought carefully about its role in capturing email subscription and cookie follow-up and all that kind of good stuff. So clear sense of purpose, great planning. A slightly less cerebral example, I think this actually plays as well. It's very quick, because it's an iron. Actually, I don't know if there's any way of getting the volume louder, but there's another bit of film later where it would really benefit. So you've got a minute or so to think about that. You can kind of listen intently. So basically this is Lowe's US DIY store, and they made a whole series of little Vine videos, basically helpful hints about how to do DIY things. That one was about you can clean your barbecue grill by putting it in coffee, which is an interesting little tip. Again, it's a simple idea, but it's obviously building out on their purpose and thinking carefully about pre-existing interest. There we go. Pre-existing interest-based communities and channel-based communities, and really very clever. They're shot on iPhones. They're shot very, very low cost. They made 55 of these very low-cost films and had over 15 million impressions, or reached 50 million people. Lots of sharing. Very cool. I really like it as well because it does the entertainment and utility, and I think people spend too much time thinking emotional or rational, useful or entertaining, and really you can do everything together. And also it's made a real benefit of the media platform. So a bit like the Geico, you can't skip this ad, pre-roll ads, it makes a benefit of the restrictions or issues with the media, which I think is pretty cool. If we skip on, and if this doesn't play, then so it's great if you can reflect purpose and plan and everything carefully. Every now and again, off this strategy, someone does something that actually really pops culturally. I've been reading that it's the age of Athena coming up. I've got 2 daughters. Apparently, women are going to take over the workplace in the world. So we'll shift from DIY into something different. And if the volume is too low, this is going to look really weird. So. Go on, give it a go. If it's too low, then people can watch it later.
First, Jenny got it. Then stupid Vicky got it. And I tried everything to get my period. Nothing. So, I faked it. Looks like Florida. Yeah, I got it. It's so red. Cherry Slush Club. Blood Sisters. They bought it.
Hey, Katie. What's this?
What do you think it is? I'm on my ladies' days.
What do I think it is? Rubylicious nail polish. But she doesn't need to know that. We have to celebrate.
No, we don't.
Oh, it's family tradition. We're throwing you a first moon party.
What the hell is a first moon party?
Oh, it's one thing to lie to me, but to take that tone, it's on. Hi, do you make vagina cakes? Hello?
Then, people started showing up at my house.
Grandpa, nice to see you.
Oh my God.
You're so grown up.
My grandparents, my friends.
This is so weird. Good to see you.
My mom's friggin' coworkers.
There she is. Hey, I got you the super pack.
These are coffee filters.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what brand you liked.
I just didn't expect my mom to be such a freak.
Pin the pad on the period. All right, separate up.
Pin the pad on the period? Seriously?
Do you know how hard it is to find a uterus pinata?
I used to like marshmallows. Not anymore.
This next one's for Katie and the weirdest birthday party ever.
Mike, drop.
I'm a queen bee, come get it. No
When things couldn't get worse,
I'm a queen bee.
Surprise!
my dad showed up.
What are you doing? You're missing the magician.
You need to stop this. No one is having fun.
What are you talking about? This party is a hit. Your grandpa is bobbing for ovaries like a champ.
I faked it.
Well, maybe you should open this first.
Period starter kit. Aren't you gonna ground me for lying?
Why do you think I threw you the first moon party? Would she think I wouldn't know? Periods don't have glitter on them.
Okay, thank you. Well done for getting the volume. Thank you very much. It's a bit early for bobbing for ovaries, but probably, but because of the nervous tension, that became a cultural phenomenon. It had 30 million views, massive impact on sales. Hello, Flow managed to turn what was a cultural taboo into a conversation. And from a brand, moved from being a mail order distributor of tampons into something that, an environment where women could safely discover about their bodies, which is pretty cool. Other people have done it. The Prudential One Day campaign about retirement, I thought it was a bit more boring at this time in the morning, but able to raise interesting cultural issues and have real conversations. So pretty cool. Now, it's a tough, I realise that segueing into Barclaycard from that is probably a mistake. And it's a sort of tough one to follow. Usually when I get wheeled out in these things to talk about how difficult it is to do publishing with all the legal and regulatory restrictions of something like financial services. Actually, when someone was first talking to me about doing this, on the same day, my legal team had told me we could no longer use generic hashtags, and we had to ask for formal written permission to do any retweeting, which you can imagine is a little bit of a blow to a social media strategy. One of the things we found, though, is by thinking about this purpose and elevating what we do, actually some of those problems fall away. And we've spent a lot of time in Barclaycard thinking about what is our purpose and how can it inform content. Actually, it's an interesting business because it does both merchant acquiring as well as the consumer credit cards that people know about, which means we have a role both to help merchants sell as well as to help consumers buy, and so a pretty unique role in enabling commerce and enabling shopping and culture. And quite a unique perspective on that. We have amazing data and insights. Something like 50% of all card transactions that happen touch us in some way. We have the stories of 10 million customers and businesses. And the more we started thinking about it, this story about shopping and commerce felt like a really interesting platform for content. We did some research. People loved the thematic area, but kind of more importantly, they felt we had permission to talk about it, and by talking about that, it elevated, they didn't say this, but it was my outtake, it elevated us into having a sort of social utility rather than just being a credit brand, and it modernized the brand, which was pretty cool. So we started thinking about how do we build out on that platform, and we've done all sorts of things and we'll continue to do so. So there's, spend data reports that really produce more for media, but are feeding into the press and get used and picked up on. We package that content up for consumers in the form of stories and factoids and bits and pieces. This is, and it's a great way of being topical and adding to existing conversations. So this is an example of something to do with half term. My favourite one is probably, unsurprisingly, about pubs, and is the fact about the day when most money is spent in pubs in a year. Does anyone know? Guess?
Patrick's Day.
Good guess, but says something about the Irish. But actually it's Mother's Day, which I think says something more about men and women. So we do all sorts of stuff like that, and then with businesses as well, in this desperate bid not to end up in landfill, it means we can provide real insight that's topically relevant. So at the moment, we're talking about Black Friday and how businesses can get ready for Black Friday. This is an example of a Twitter chat that happened. Something like tens and tens of thousands of people engaged and many more impressions. So really powerful conversations, and we're finding it's a content platform that enables us not only to integrate across channels, but actually to integrate different bits of the business, which is pretty cool. Another thing we think about a lot is this contribution to culture and how we can get there on that. Barclaycard has a heritage around comedy and humour, and so we try and build out on that. So the example on the left, where we've been wanting to talk about features of the product over and above pricing that make life a little bit easier. In the recent campaign, we used Jason Manford to talk about things that he found frustrating and observational humour about things that annoyed him that then our products could resolve. It was a pretty open brief. It was a very difficult edit, although a very amusing shoot, and it plays straight into a pre-existing community. The stuff on the right, we also have a sort of innovation heritage. So for the last few years, we've been running spoof product launches on April Fool's Day. The one on the top right was the first payment device for dogs, designed for dogs, PayWag, and that got something like 400,000 very quickly organic views, just because it was topically relevant and feeding into a pre-existing conversation. So, we found we're starting to make progress. You can imagine with these things, with Manford's Sexter reputation and the nudity that existed in the other video, we had great fun with our friends in legal, but we have managed to make progress, and if we can do it, anybody can. Please don't quote me on that. So we go to the last bit. So in conclusion, and hopefully this has kind of come through, the three things that I think are important, and it very much reflects what we've heard from Pete and others, are it's really important to come from a sense of purpose. As with everything else that you do, content and publishing should both be informed by and reinforce the brand. I think it's important that you think hard about what is your contribution to culture, how are you adding to it, what insights or permission do you have to do things differently. It's very easy otherwise to become generic and end up in landfill. And the final point is about distribution. Absolutely look for and engage pre-existing communities, but sometimes it's good to remember that actually many businesses have communities wrapped around them, obviously true of the post office. We have big social media reach, we have own digital properties with millions of customers coming through, we have experiential events and venues. And when we started thinking about that as an ecosystem, you actually have millions of people that you can directly engage if you really integrate across platforms. Very difficult for businesses because everyone, particularly with context, is popping up in different teams, is fractionalized. But the truism about consumers find integration easy, it's businesses that find it difficult to execute, I think is something that we can all do better on getting right. And that was it really. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. And,
great example there. Thank you. Open up the floor. Questions? Does anybody have a question or two that they'd like to ask Alex?
I have a question. You talk about brand purpose, which was really interesting.
what actually is Barclaycard's brand purpose? How do you articulate it?
So we have to come off the Barclays brand purpose, which is to help people achieve their ambitions in the right way.
Right.
We focus on our role within that, which is to connect buyers and sellers.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Alan.
Thank you very much.